What up, YouTube? Roshad here again. As promised, I got spoiler review for y'all. Man, look. The very beginning of this movie, Sub-Zero shows up and just fucks everybody up. At the very start, I knew that there had to be something up when they released like the first 7 minutes of the movie. I was like, the first 7 minutes? Who the hell cares about that? My dumb ass didn't even check it out. I just wanted to kind of see the whole thing all the way through. I figured there was already enough hype going into it as is. I just want to see it all the way through. Man, I saw this and I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, he just blows through everybody, Sub-Zero. And then there's like, I guess some henchmen around. You know, for the Lin Kuei is Sub-Zero's folks, so but he has like some other guys, and Scorpion, known as Hanzo, I guess that's like his real name. So Scorpion's coming through and he's just throwing his dagger and slicing and dicing people, sends it right through somebody's head, breaks one dude's spine, like you see his body like like it just looks freaking ridiculous. And man, when Sub-Zero froze Hanzo's family like that, that was just sick, man. I felt really bad at first. I thought it was gonna be some sort of brutal fatality, and I was like, they can't fatality the child, can they? It's gonna be like Star Wars Episode 3, where they murdered all the little Jedi babies. It was like, fuck them kids. So Scorpion shows up right after that, to see his family basically frozen entirely. So you're thinking he's gonna like come through and, you know, get some sweet revenge. But of course, if you know anything about Scorpion, you know that he gets his ass beat and he gets murked. That's what happens in like literally every Mortal Kombat storyline, is that Scorpion loses the fight. And man, he loses it horribly. He gets his freaking head smashed against a rock. He gets thrown up against a tree, freaking back blown out against the damn tree and shit. He just gets humiliated. This was a glorious start to the movie. I saw this, I was like, what? Sub-Zero is basically the main villain for the rest of the movie. Forget about Shang Tsung for a minute. He's like almost insignificant compared to Scorpion or Sub-Zero, because later on there's like this city scene and Sub-Zero comes through. For any of y'all who've seen the trailer, you know, like Sub-Zero, he does a thing where he like takes the ice and like he like throws it down to the street. And I mean, at first I didn't really get it. I just thought it looked kind of cool. But in the movie, he takes and it's like freaking just starts hailing on everybody, like on the cars, and his people just getting beat over the head with ice. I was like, yo, what the hell is going on? Is like this man like the Avatar or some shit where he like combining water and wind and just making just all this ice fall from the sky? Like, I know Sub-Zero is supposed to be pretty strong, but damn, like, I don't remember him being this damn strong. It's like this man hit some new levels in this movie. I thought it was awesome. Sub-Zero is going around trying to take out everybody with the dragon tattoos. Basically, this is Shang Tsung's master plan. He's kind of like the mob boss, essentially, from the Netherworld, and Sub-Zero is doing his thing, doing Shang Tsung's bidding, essentially. He's the muscle, essentially. So he's doing a damn good job, too, because he fucks up, well, he tries to fuck up Cole. He does fuck up Jax, and the way they did Jax was just dirty, where freaking arms blew off or got frozen, and Jax, he basically had the fatality phase. It's the little details. I think a lot of people don't like get like the little details behind really being a fan of Mortal Kombat like that they did. And you know what he did to finish him? He just threw him off a cliff. And I thought he was super dead. It looked like he freaking hit his head like on the way down, like, and his body started flinging. The fact that he survived this shit was just ridiculous. It was crazy, but it was a nice little fake out, and it really solidified from the beginning that Sub-Zero is nothing to be trifled with. If nothing else, even for any naysayers who perhaps had some issues with the movie, you certainly can't say, or I'd be very shocked if anybody's like, nah, man, they did Sub-Zero dirty. Like, nah, Sub-Zero ass got the glory, nigga. I know some people are criticizing this movie already, But man, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm gonna just say that y'all can have about 1,000 seats, cause this movie and the fights in it were freaking crazy. So not all of them were perfect. Like some toward the end I'll talk about a little bit later, but most of the fights, there was people just fighting for no fucking reason. Like Sonya fights Cole. Like I didn't really talk much about Cole, but Sonya fights Cole at one point, and then Kano, Sonya and Cole all get together and they fight, and then another point I think Kano fights is it Liu Kang, and then Kung Lao is fighting. It's like just so many fights, and toward the end they just throw a bunch of fights together. Now maybe people had issues with the way the fights took place, because even I had some issue with some of it. It seemed like it went by pretty fast. Like at the end they just threw this like collage of fights together, and they were just kind of boom, like it was over and done with. And I was kind of like, well, the other fights were so good, but these fights like weren't quite as good. They were still enjoyable, but like, man, one of the best ones, freaking Sonya and Kano. Sonya, man. Damn, Sonya. How you gonna let Kano do you like that? She got her ass whooped. Man, I'm telling you, Sonya got punched, kicked, choked. She got freaking sliced. I don't know if she got stabbed, but I know she at least got cut. She got thrown through like at least 3 walls or more. Like she got thrown through so many walls. Like at one point, Kano just took, it was like, whoa, boom, and threw her up against the ceiling. I was like, oh, fuck. I felt like my fucking back hurt after watching that shit. I was like, damn, Sonya, don't let him do you dirty like that. That shit reminds me of a scene from, if anybody's seen Daredevil, I think it's Daredevil on Netflix season 1, where it was like, or no, was it Jessica Jones? Yeah, it was Jessica Jones versus like some dude she went up against in an apartment, and he was like fucking her shit up. That's what it reminded me of, because he was throwing her through walls and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like that shit was crazy, because she, like, you know, she was doing all her signature flip kicks and she was just trying to get something going. And Kano was just over here spamming eye lasers, spamming eye lasers like he's freaking retarded. And this shit reminded me of Godzilla versus Kong, where Godzilla just spamming like his little breath everywhere, and Kong was just trying to dodge it for dear life. So Sonya was doing the same thing, took and threw some shit in his eye, and she like made his eye glitch out. That shit was funny as hell. I was like, man, look, that was definitely my favorite fight. I love watching that. And to be honest with y'all, I can't wait till this review is over, because I want to go back. I want to go back and actually just watch that fight again. I may even watch the whole movie. Besides the fight, Kano is like the funniest, the stupidest asshole in this movie. I don't know what it is. And again, I said in my non-spoiler review, so for anybody who hasn't seen that, I strongly recommend checking that out first, so you can kind of get some of my fleshed out thoughts. Some things I might flesh out a little bit better in that one rather than this spoiler review. But Kano was freaking great. It's either you're gonna love him or hate him. I was one of the people that loved him, and the type of sense of humor that they brought to the movie. It just was so freaking hilarious. He was always talking shit. He would not give you a break. Some people may feel like he overdid it. I felt like it was perfect, because someone's personality, it's like there's no such thing as overdoing it in their mind. That's just who they are. And it's like he didn't give a fuck how serious the moment was supposed to be, what was going on. He would like, sometimes other people be on the screen talking, and you hear Kano like in the background like talking shit about what was going on in their conversation or whatever. And I was just like, hey, that reminds me of real life. There's plenty of assholes like that in real life. There was one particularly funny part where he's going up against, I'm pretty sure it's Liu Kang. And like, Liu Kang just takes, and he just trips Kano. And Kano gets back up like, all right, that was a practice round, whatever. And then he takes and trips him again. And then Kano, he thinks he's on some smart shit. He's like, this dummy gonna try to jump ahead of time. And then Liu Kang's just gonna sit there and wait and then trip him again. I was like, this shit is just ignorant. I really loved that little stupid exchange. Like all of these little stupid little micro exchanges that people have. And for me, it felt very cohesive, and I just like the dynamic that it brought instead of trying to do this super serious plot. Because I know some people, I guess I don't know what people expect from Mortal Kombat with the movies, in the games. Like, I played like almost every Mortal Kombat game that there is that's a legitimate game published by one of the, the actual owners of the series. Probably all of them I played, and I've watched the 2 movies. And the story in here is easily better than any of the stories in any of the games and any of the movies. But I've heard some people complain already, like it's literally release day while I'm filming this, and they've already complained about the story. And I'm like, okay, the story, it is what it is. It's not like Captain America Civil War or Iron Man 1 level story. However, they crammed so many fights into the movie. There was just no possible way that they could have done this many fights and included more stories. So I feel like they kind of made a choice on whether or not you wanted people to say, oh, well, the movie was boring, like they did in Endgame. If anybody remembers that, plenty of story, but a lot of people complain, oh, that movie sucked. It didn't have enough action and so on and so forth. But it literally was the next part of the story. So that proves to you, in this day and age, it doesn't matter what people say. Obviously, sometimes you can't make some people happy, but when you try to do a whole lot of story, if there's not enough action to go with it, doesn't matter. People are gonna shit on the movie. Oh, it's boring, it sucks, whatever. So I think that they chose what they needed to. A lot of characters, a lot of action. Boom. That's one of my favorite things about the movie is the volume of characters that they had. Now, they didn't just cram it in and go freaking nuts like crazy, but they did have a pretty good roster, certainly better than the original Mortal Kombat from 1995, though admittedly that one, obviously, you had a lot less characters to work with, but you still, by then, I'm pretty sure when that first one came out, they had like a ton of different characters already. But that aside, they all had like their signature moves. Like at one point, Sonya takes and she shoots like the little bracelet shit, shoots straight through freaking Melina's shit. At first, I noticed like she went down, and I was like, damn, is she dead? Because they didn't show like the hit, and they just showed that big ass hole in her gut. I was like, damn, Sonya, you done got crucial like that. One hitter quitter. Liu Kang busts out the fire dragon on Cabal, which I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more. That's one of the things I'm about to get to. Liu Kang was a lot more of he did seem like a much more insignificant character. They had him and Kung Lao, but Liu Kang does bust out the fire dragon, and he busts out his freaking bicycle kick. Like, that shit just goes crazy. He finishes off Cabal and all of that, which I'm gonna get to talking about him in a minute. But just his presence, he did whoop a lot of ass, but he also kind of got his ass whooped. So obviously, for any Mortal Kombat purists, again, if they see Liu Kang kind of getting beat by some of the lesser people, then they're kind of like, wait a minute, how the hell is this working out? Like, Cabal's not supposed to really be a match for Liu Kang, but then again, I mean, there's never any real story beats about Liu Kang necessarily being able to just beat anyone, you know what I mean? Just because he can beat, I guess, Shang Tsung and people like Shao Kahn and stuff like that doesn't mean that he can't struggle against somebody else. So it did make some sense. And Liu Kang inevitably wins the fight anyway. At one point, Liu Kang is fighting though, and he's kind of getting his ass whooped. This is kind of before the actual final part with Kano. And then freaking Kung Lao comes out of nowhere. You just see this man's hat just come and just hit somebody. Bruh, I hollered when I saw Kung Lao because I don't remember, maybe he's in like the poster or something, but I don't remember the fact that he was supposed to be in the movie. I didn't really know. I hoped he was in the movie, but I always loved Kung Lao just because of this man's hat. Even if you look at like his old photo on the old Mortal Kombat games, it's like they have like half his face like kind of shaded off, and then the hat had like a glisten on that bitch. I'm like, oh man, when I first saw that as a kid, I'm like, man, this dude looks tight. Like, and even in the game or in the movie, he looks exactly the same. And he really feels like Kung Lao. But then he right after, he like literally fatalities somebody, which is like one of the greatest fatalities in the movie. He like does something straight out of like, I think it was MK9, where he like puts the hat on the ground and then just keeps spinning, and like the bird chick like flies right into it. freaking amazing stuff. But then like right after he gets his soul took, I'm like, -1 point for that. They had one of my all-time favorite characters in this movie. I don't know how anybody else feels about this man, but freaking Cabal, again, another character I didn't know was in this movie. You know, he like has moves where he like speeds around and he fights with like these weird like crowbar looking weapons that are like blades. They're not actual crowbars, but they look like blades. And I've always loved this dude. I used to hate him when I first played against him in Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I hated Cabal, like playing against him. But then I actually tried it myself, and I used to beat my brother's ass. After that, I fell in love with Cabal. I'm like, this character is the shit. And they got him in this movie. He's totally in character in terms of like his moves and abilities and stuff. And he's kind of an asshole similar to Kano, which kind of brings me to another point where Kano switches sides, which I was like, the main characters in this movie were freaking idiots. Because obviously anyone could see that he wasn't a good guy. Like he just came along because Sonya promised him some money, which also didn't make sense. And he even said himself it didn't make sense because he figured she didn't have it. She admitted to not having it to Cole, you know, but he came along anyway. So of course, the bad guys can offer him more than y'all can offer him, which is literally nothing. Let's talk about some of the fights near the end. So I already covered Sonya and Kano fight, which was my best and favorite fight from the whole movie. But there's also a couple others, like Jax gets to fight. But that's the thing, even though, so earlier, it's like they fight earlier in the movie, there's like this big ambush with Shang Tsung. That particular ambush where they're like still in training and all that stuff, I actually like that more, and that wasn't even the end of the movie. So it's like Jax and Kung Lao and Liu Kang, Sonya, and Sonya doesn't have her one-hit kill ability yet, but they're all fighting and they're getting their asses beat horribly. But then later on, at the end of the movie, it's like Sonya's fighting Kano, Jax is fighting some dude with a hammer. I don't really know which character that is, or if that's one of the real characters at all. Then there's Cole is fighting Goro, and I'm trying to remember who else there was, but they all were essentially fighting. And oh yeah, Liu Kang was fighting Cabal. So they all were essentially fighting, and the fights just kind of seemed like they just went pretty fast. Like, of course, bad guys were whooping the good guy's ass again. And then, you know, the good guys are kind of keeping up a little bit better this time. And they start using their powers more. And then it's like they unlock like new powers. You know, like Jax's arms grow and out of freaking nowhere. You know, Liu Kang turned to a dragon. And, you know, Sonya, she kills Kano. And then she like unlocks her little wrist shits or whatever the hell, her kiss of death, whatever the fuck it is. So all of that happens. It just seemed like it all happens fast, with the exception of Sonya versus Kano, which was pretty much like a solid few minutes of her just getting her ass handed to her and then miraculously winning at the end. The other fights between like Liu Kang and Cabal and Jackson, the dude with the hammer, just seemed like they just went by too fast. I don't know. It just seemed like there was like no real stakes there. They just had to fight. However, I did enjoy them. I just feel like it could have been better, and most of the best stuff they should have saved for the end rather than kind of front loading, or even in this case, middle loading the movie. The powers in this movie, which I kind of briefly touched on, that is something that is just really questionable. I'm not really sure if there's like a better way that they could have done it. Probably, but I can't really think of one right now. But I know that people are still going to complain about it, and even I'm kind of complaining a little bit, mainly because like the way some of it happens, in particular, the main character of the movie, who everything kind of centers around, is Cole, and Cole just kind of develops like, they said like use the pain, and like Raiden kept telling him use the pain, or saying something like that. And Cole eventually just starts developing some sort of armor, like literally the one type of thing that would help him survive getting like one shot by Goro. And he ends up killing Goro. Now, Cole was in an MMA fight at the beginning of the movie. So, you know, for anyone who didn't like the movie, I'm like, man, did y'all not see that MMA fight? that one fight that's enough to get a couple points right there, because that was a good fight. But anyway, Cole didn't win the fight. He didn't win the fight, but then he managed to defeat Goro, and Goro's supposed to be like one of the best warriors. So, you know, if you're looking for everything to make perfect sense, then wrong movie, obviously. But he does end up with some pretty interesting powers, and he ends up taking out Goro. So when you really think about it, though, I mean, what real strategy would they have besides like jumping him? I mean, how the hell is anybody going to defeat Goro one-on-one in any type of legitimate capacity? Like, come on, let's be real here. So, like I mentioned with Sub-Zero, they kind of took the opportunity to turn him into like the main big threat. You know, for opening scene, Sub-Zero, he freezes the family and kills everyone there, including Scorpion, again, Hanzo. And all of that happens, and then at the end they also fight Scorpion, and he's essentially like the final boss for the movie, which I did enjoy. But of course, there's a little bit of disappointment because you want to see Shang Tsung get his hands dirty. You know, you want to see him come out of that, you know, little bougie ass robe he got with all his little sorcerer powers and see what he's got. You know what I'm saying? And then they even had Raiden, and you know, Raiden appears to, just the way that they portray him is like he's much stronger than everyone, which canon and lore wise he certainly is, you know, but he never gets his hands dirty either, at least for most of the movie. But he doesn't do any fighting, so I kind of wanted to see them like get down or do something. Or maybe even if they left Raiden out, I would at least expect Shang Tsung of all people to directly interfere. But instead it was just Sub-Zero. So you kind of feel like you just took out all of the henchmen, but any of the real bosses never really got involved. And that's a little disappointing. I would at least look forward to, I honestly felt like Shang Tsung was definitely going to get involved. He's on the cover of the movie poster. And I was actually expecting them to go a step further and maybe even have somebody like Shao Kahn. You know, so this kind of comes down to expectations and what you expect. I do feel like they kind of did drop the ball a little bit when it comes to Shang Tsung and you know, arguably Raiden, you know, but all the stuff with like Shao Kahn and stuff like that, you know, that's kind of my own expectations being set. But what they had, I enjoyed, but obviously I feel like maybe they could have had a little bit more, maybe cut out some of those fights that were like a little shorter. Like, even though I love Cabal, maybe the fight with him and Liu Kang, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe save that for later or something, and the fight with Melina, and maybe include a more important or bigger character such as Shao Kahn, or even just include the fight with Shang Tsung, something that a lot of us wanted to see if they were gonna redo that, like in the 1995 movie. So even though I actually did enjoy this movie more than the 1995 version, I feel as though the stakes in the original movie made a lot more sense, because this movie was about like Sub-Zero, or Scorpion rather, trying to get his like revenge, coming back from hell to kill Sub-Zero. But Scorpion's already dead, so we don't care about Scorpion. We love Scorpion, but we don't care about him in terms of what's happening today. You know, we care about Cole because a lot of the movie centers around Cole and his family. So even though they did put his family, Cole's family, at the forefront to be saved and not wind up like Scorpion's family, they made it Scorpion's kill. You know, he blew the fire breath, blew the fire breath. I was hoping they would turn Sub-Zero to literal ash, but they didn't. You know, they had his body still intact. But I mean, in the game, I'm pretty sure they turned people to dust. Like literally, it's like you see the freaking bone, like just turn to dust. But in this, they decided to keep him intact for whatever reason. Whatever. It still was really cool to see him blow the fire. But again, they could have had it be like a much more higher stakes scenario and made it feel like it was just a bigger and grander overall impact to just impact the audience more, is what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and wrap up here, guys. So again, I gave the movie like a 9 out of 10. I really love the movie. Got to stand by my score, but I am curious what everyone else is thinking. Let me know what y'all thought in the comments. Like, did you like the movie or what did you not like? Did I touch on all the things that maybe some people just really couldn't look past? Or was there some stuff that I hadn't even considered that people just, you know, some of y'all just didn't like? You know, I don't know. Let me know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff I do want to see. Hopefully there's a sequel because I want to see some other characters. I want to see some freaking Noob Saibot. Noob Saibot should have been in this movie for sure. That's my personal bias. I freaking love Noob Saibot. Smoke, you know. You got freaking Sindel is like one of the absolute favorites. You got the sister, Jade. You know, like all of these characters. Kitana, I think that's a little bit of a head scratcher, her not being in the movie, but I know that they're eventually going to take her to like the Netherrealm and stuff like that. And did they even go to the Netherrealm in this movie? I don't think they did. So, you know, I'm sure that eventually they're going to go to the Netherrealm and maybe they already have it planned in a very specific way they want to do it. And they plan on like it going like being a trilogy. Like, you know, number one is just set some things up in motion. Number two sets things and takes the stakes higher. And number three is kind of like everything's on the line. I don't know if they planned that far ahead or if they just wanted to make an awesome movie where a bunch of the Mortal Kombat characters get together and beat the shit out of each other. But if it's the latter, then good fucking job. I can't forget about my boy Quan Chi. I don't know how the hell I forgot about him. So I don't remember. Was he in Mortal Kombat Annihilation? I can't remember. But Quan Chi, both me and my brother, we fucks with Quan Chi. Like if I didn't have to do all that damn makeup and all that shit to look like him, I'd be dressed up as him right now, or I'd do it for like Dragon Con or something. But yeah, I want to see them really go into some of the deeper depths of the story of Mortal Kombat and not keep it so surface level. So I want to see that at some point. Hopefully it gets there with the way that they're making movies now. They're actually taking movies in comic book and video game movies a lot more seriously. So hopefully it gets to that point where we can see Quan Chi. And I almost forgot, Cole ends up being Johnny Cage, which, I mean, who knew? I didn't really keep up with it or see any theories about this or anything, but I mean, I suppose I'm fine with it. Like, Johnny Cage isn't exactly one of my favorite characters, so I didn't really care that much that he was missing. I thought it was a little weird, but apparently he's here. So, I mean, whatever. I'm sure they'll make him more Johnny Cage-esque going forward. So I'm not freaking out or anything that he wasn't Johnny Cage enough or whatever. So, you know, whatever. We'll see what happens, but I appreciate y'all watching to the end. So thanks a lot for that. Be sure to give the video a like if you enjoy the content. Plenty more to come. There's a lot of gaming content coming. It's kind of been like a bit of a slow period. A lot of gaming content coming soon though. So stay tuned for that because there's a lot of shit releasing. So I'm gonna have my work cut out for me for sure. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching. Catch y'all next time. Peace.